Hey fabulous people, and welcome back to another video. This is my second video in Black History Month, and my first video was talking about my favorite black heroines in animation. This one I'm going to talk about my favorite black heroes, or my favorite black male protagonists in animation. I didn't realize until after I finished making the list, but a lot of these characters are actually heroes in the more traditional sense of the word also, which I find kind of ironic, but probably says more about me and my personal favorite characters than how black boys and men are portrayed in media. So fifth on the list is Frozone, or Lucius, from the Incredibles franchise. He kind of falls into the category of black best friend, being Mr. Incredible's best friend. They sneak out together to save the day when it's against the law, and Lucius is the more hesitant of the two, more concerned with following the rules and also staying safe. And he also gets quite plausibly the best line in the entire movie. Number two is Cyborg, also known as Victor, from the Teen Titans animated series on Cartoon Network. I really enjoyed his character as a very strong, self-assured, self-confident young man who was as capable of leading, if not more so, than Robin in certain situations, but always had his friend's best interests and his own best interests at the forefront of his mind moving forward. Number three is Static Shock, or Virgil, from the series Static Shock that I watched as a child on 4Kids TV. So I will admit that the animation quality is not as good in this series as it was in some of the others on the list. But Virgil himself, I loved this kid. He was very intelligent, very witty, and had a very loving family that he genuinely cared about. And it was nice to see that, to see a young black man with a loving and compassionate family, which isn't necessarily something you always see in media. And on top of that, he was just an interesting character with an interesting power set, at least from my point of view watching it when I was a child, and I really looked up to him as a kid. Number two is kind of a niche one, I think. It's the character of John Henry. John Henry is a character from American folk tales and legends, and is first seen from my life in the animated film from Disney, American Legends. And I cry. I still, as an adult, tear up watching his segment, because John Henry could be considered the first black superhero in American fiction. He was a former slave who went on to have immense strength and managed to save the livelihoods of not only his family, but all of his friends and fellow co-workers working on the railway. I would definitely recommend looking up the John Henry short. I understand if you don't want to watch the entirety of the show, but Disney Legends was pretty good and pretty great at maintaining these old folk tales of America in a way that children can easily consume and is easily accessible. Before we get to number one, I want to throw in a couple honorable mentions. The first one is Tucker Foley from the Danny Phantom series. He is, again, in the category of black best friend of the white protagonist, but I always really enjoyed him. He was the funny, tech-savvy, smart kid counter in Danny's friend group, who was a little bit of a fraidy cat, but was always ready to step up and help Danny and Sam out. Then there's Wade from the Kim Possible series, and Wade basically played Q to Kim Possible's 007. He was the one who created all of her gadgets and all of her weaponry so that she could do her best to save the day as your basic average girl. Finally, moving on to number one, and I'm sure this is no surprise to anyone, but it's Miles Morales from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I cannot praise Miles enough. He is sweet, he is thoughtful, he is charismatic, but shy. He genuinely is an amazingly intelligent young man, but his emotions do affect his productivity in school. And on top of that, he's a brilliant artist. He is just overall a wonderful addition to the Marvel universe. And I'm not surprised that he's been such a breakout star when he's so sympathetic. Like, it is so easy to relate to this character, and it's so easy for everyone to find part of themselves in him. And that was the intention of the creator. Miles Morales was created as a Black Latino superhero because the original creator wanted someone for his Black Latino children to be able to look up to as a hero. And I think that that's the heart of all of these characters, really, and why I enjoy them so much and why I like them so much, is because I do find part of myself in them. Not the color of their skin, because I am immensely pale, but there's a part of me that always wishes that I could be a hero, and for these characters, they are. And that's truly admirable, that all these different walks of life and all of these different backstories have that thing in common, is that shared desire to help other people. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my list, and I would definitely recommend you go ahead and check some of these characters out. I hope you have enjoyed your February. Stay fabulous, people.